Guess who's back? It's me. I'm back. My name is Mike Christensen, and it may have been a minute since you've seen me. It's been a wild couple of months. Wedding planning is going well. Writing, less so. This week is the first week where I finally have been writing every day. That is not a thing that I have been doing for the past few months. And I had such big plans to do more writing. NaNoWriMo is happening right now. National Novel Writing Month is happening. And I had a whole idea of how to do a NaNoWriMo video and kind of how to set up a NaNoWriMo video. More of a plan of how to set it up, if I'm being honest. But I didn't do them. This isn't gonna be a pity party, woe is me, I didn't do the thing. I didn't do it. I didn't do the work. But let's talk a little bit about why and why you might run into something similar in your life. Now, everyone has their own reasons to not write, but they all stem from a certain degree of time management, I guess is the best way to put it. Actually, the best way to put it is the way Steven Pressfield put it. I'm going to borrow heavily from Steven Pressfield's book, The War of Art, which is a great book. I definitely recommend you check it out or listen to the audiobook. It's really well done. And the general gist is that the main obstacle to most creative endeavors is resistance. And resistance takes a lot of different forms. Technically speaking, anything you do that prevents you from writing is a form of resistance. Now, not all those things are bad things to have in your life. Some of the things that were keeping me from writing were wedding planning, trying to work out more, trying to spend more time with my fiance, working on the podcasts that I do. These are not bad things to do, nor are they not valuable, or even, I would say, less valuable than writing. These aren't things that you need to remove from your life, but they're things you need to find a balance on, because resistance isn't those things. Resistance is not the action. Those things are what allow resistance into your life. The book gets kind of metaphysical at times. It talks a little bit about muses and things like that, which I don't 100% subscribe to. I think they're an interesting literary exercise, and I'm going to borrow them for the purposes of this, but the main thing that we are going to talk about is how resistance is personified. Because personified isn't even really the right word, but resistance has agency. Resistance is out to get you. Maybe the most common example of resistance, at least how we generally see it and how we personify it, is writer's block. Writer's block is not the only form of resistance, though. Sometimes resistance is just, I don't feel like I have time to write. Sometimes resistance is, I don't think I'm good enough to write. Sometimes resistance is, I feel like this idea has been done before, and I don't want to be seen as a copycat. None of these are invalid, really. But if they keep you from writing, then, in the words of Steven Pressfield, resistance wins. Think of resistance like the shark from Jaws. It doesn't care about you. It's not interested in your feelings or whether or not you think you've done good work. It just wants to stop you. It just wants to destroy you. It wants to destroy your writing. Thunder literally rolled when I said that. Honestly, I don't exactly go in for that sort of literal metaphysical concept. I don't think resistance is an actual force the way that gravity is. But I think it is a good way to describe and define how writers are their own worst enemies. One other example is a writing meme that I found pretty recently, which I'm going to put on the screen. For those not able to view it, it is one of those Scooby-Doo moments where Fred is about to unmask the monster and he says, let's see who's been stopping me from writing, and they unmasks it and it's just his own face. Because we're the only thing stopping us from writing. I am the only reason I wasn't writing. And I could chalk it up to a bunch of other things, but none of them are valid. Not really. Not if they keep me from writing. Wedding planning does take a lot of energy. That's true. Podcasts take time to edit. My fiance is a living person with needs and her own life and stuff and dreams. And yeah, I need to work on my health and I want to work out more and it's important to make the time for that. And yeah, Disney launched a streaming service and I gotta check it out. It's great to incorporate these things into your life, but you have to make sure that you're very aware of how they're affecting your time and how they're affecting your energy. I wasn't making the time for writing and I was feeling it. Even though I enjoy what I was doing, as much as anyone enjoys working out, but you know what I mean. As much as I was enjoying my life and things were going well, I was still frustrated whenever I thought about the fact that I wasn't writing. And again, I didn't have a good defense. If I came home from work and Victoria asked me how did the writing go, I would just say, Yeah, I didn't do it. Didn't do it. Didn't do any writing. Not a good answer. Not an answer I was especially proud of, obviously. Because I wasn't feeling it, or what? I don't know. I don't know what the root was exactly. But in some form, it's all resistance. Resistance doesn't care whether it's difficult to find a vendor for your DJ or whatever for your wedding. Resistance is going to use that, though. It's definitely going to take advantage of the fact that your mind is on other things. There were a lot of lunch breaks where I had to go out and take phone calls instead of doing writing because I read on my lunch break. And I was talking to people about bills and money and credit card debt and things like that. Not fun. It doesn't especially make you want to write afterward. But doesn't mean there couldn't have been other time in the day where I could have made up the writing. But I had it in my head of like, well, I missed my window for the day and I have all this other real life stuff to deal with. And that is all true. I had real life stuff to deal with. I'm still dealing with that real life stuff. But I don't want to make my writing a casualty of it anymore. There's a lot of things about writing culture that I'm not wild about. And one of them is the perception of a muse or creative genius or anything like that that kind of takes the onus off of the writer doing the work. If you watch this channel, and somewhat contrary to what I'm saying in this particular video, I believe that writers sit down and they do the work. And I can't call myself a writer for vast portions of my life because I wasn't sitting down and doing the work. And I just had one of those. I just had one of those double months. I had two of those months where I wasn't a writer. I was a dungeon master because I was preparing adventures for a podcast and for other home games. I was an editor because I was working on other projects. I was, a super fun, awesome, cool guy who definitely caught up on The Mandalorian and is enjoying that show. And that was actually super recent. I can't blame this on The Mandalorian. Mandalorian had nothing to do with this. I'm sorry, Mandalorian. It's not your fault. I wasn't a writer for the past couple months. I got a couple days in October, but not much. I definitely missed the first half of November, which is famously a month that people try to do writing in. And I don't have a reason. I don't have a why. It just was not in me. And, part of what happened was that I just started sitting down and thinking about my future and my plans and what I want to do. And a big part of it is being a writer. That's how I want to, if not make my living, certainly would love to, but at least spend my days. I have stories I want to tell, and I was thinking about them, and I was like, well, I need to finish the ones I'm working on. I'm still not sure how I'm going to fix this one. Pin down. But I need to do it. I've got to get back to this at some point. Soon. I am someone who has an addictive personality, and that's definitely something I've known about myself for a long time, though maybe not as long as other people in my life. My parents probably figured that out a lot earlier than I did. But when you're just following certain types of media in your life, like podcasts that are specifically about people playing Dungeons and Dragons, that's the kind of thing that I want to focus my time on. It's why I haven't been checking in with my AuthorTube videos, because I've been catching up on other things. And that is why I didn't feel the need to record more videos and didn't feel the need to do as much writing. Or at least it's a factor. I grapple onto whatever projects are ahead of me, and I tend to have very intense, short love affairs with them. I spent a chunk of this year working on video essays. I had this whole plan to launch another channel, and I still might do this someday. Right now, I don't have the time, the bandwidth, and the money, quite honestly, to devote to that project. I would love to do it. Maybe in 2021, I'll jumpstart that project the way I was intending it to. But right now, it's just not something I can factor into my life. But there was a while where I was deep in it and chasing that dragon. Sometimes new projects are my drug. And sometimes following those threads leads me to interesting things, and sometimes they peter off. The library novel was a form of that. It was this other interesting, intriguing idea that I've been percolating, but I just started working on out of the blue. I think it was very influenced by things that I was seeing in theaters and things that I was reading about and things that were going on in pop culture. It was inspired a lot by the movie It, honestly. And I still think, even though I wrote, maybe a third or a fourth of a novel, I still think it was a form of resistance because it allowed me to divert attention away from projects that I have clear, ambitious ideas of. One of the things that I've been working on is trying to figure out whether I'm a plotter or a pantser. And on the course of working on the Wizard novel, the novel that I'm back to writing finally, I've been figuring out that I am definitely a plotter, or at least I really enjoy plotting, but I also use that sort of as a guideline. So right now I'm hitting beats a little earlier than expected, and they're kind of turning in interesting directions, and I'm still using the framework that I set up, but I'm still coming up with things to surprise me. And I'm enjoying that process quite a bit. But I think that exercise was diverted by the library novel exercise/endeavor. Now, I don't want to say it wasn't worthwhile to work on the library novel, because I do think it was. I'll probably come back to that novel at some point when I have a stronger idea of what I want to do with it, not just in the story, but sort of in the wider publishing context. But I think it was a way for me to distract myself from projects that I think have a stronger potential for what I want to do. I want to write fantasy, and I want to write superhero stuff. And the two other projects that I have, the superhero novel, obviously, and the wizard novel, also obviously, those fall into those genres. The library novel was a really interesting exercise, and I enjoyed it, but I think in a way, it was a form of resistance. Because resistance, and again, I still think of this as something writers do in their own heads, but I think it's true. Resistance sounds reasonable, at least on some level. Because, yeah, I was still writing. It was not what I was intending to write, but it was a form of writing. And that's great, right? Maybe some authors would consider that's great. And I think I allowed myself to. But it still diverted me from my plan, from my agenda, from my goal. My goal was to write a wizard novel. And some other stuff as well. The library novel was great because I started using that as a way to do AuthorTube. I think that is a great thing that came out of that. Still, to me, I think it was in some way a form of resistance against the novel that I had been plotting at the time. And writers always have moments when they're working on novels. There's a moment during the novel where you think, oh my gosh, this is bad, this is terrible, and it has been the entire time, and I'm never gonna make it workable or reasonable, and I should just stop. Every writer has that, or at least a lot of them do. That's resistance. Another thing that happens is you get tempted by other ideas. These other ideas come along and say, hey, I know you're deep on this other project that you have an idea for, and maybe you have a publisher who's asking for it, or maybe you just plan to self-publish, but you're gonna tie it into something else you're doing in your other part of your business. Maybe you have this great idea, but what about me? Something kind of half-cocked and dumb. That's kind of what the library novel was. It's still resistance. If it keeps you from writing, it's resistance. And I think in my case, if it kept me from writing what I should have been writing, it's still kind of resistance. But I'm back at it. I'm back on the wizard novel, and I am finally starting to give it the attention it deserves. And hopefully that continues for the rest of this week. And right now all I can do is take it a week at a time and just say, I wrote every day of a week, and just see what happens at the end of it. Hi, buddy. Hi, Wrigley. Do you remember when I did YouTube videos? Remember that? I guess not. That's all I have for you today. But hey, if you want more videos like this, subscribe, and hopefully I will do more videos like this. Leave a comment below and let me know the longest amount of time you've gone without writing. Ring the bell if you want YouTube to let you know when I post another video. Until next time, thanks for watching. I love you, Victoria.